West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
So think of it. They get me to that position, and then their campaign says, I'm the prosecutor, and he is the convicted felon. That's their campaign. I don't think people are going to buy it.
As Tulsi Taggart says, Trump is trying the winning strategy of repeating his opponent's attacks against him and reminding everyone that he is a convicted felon, someone who's been found liable for sexual assault, and someone who's bankrupted almost everything he's ever touched. This is Donald Trump's speech in Charlotte, North Carolina. Trump was making weird noises, complaining, throwing tantrums, of course, talking about the late, great Hannibal Lecter, which makes absolutely no sense at all. This was unhinged, weird, dangerous. Let's get into the clips here. Donald Trump just starts making weird noises like, here, play the clip.
So think of it. They get me to that position, and then their campaign says, I'm the prosecutor, and he is the convicted felon. That's their campaign. I don't think people are going to buy it, and we want...
Then Donald Trump talks about his friend, the late, great Hannibal Lecter, and then says he's not cognitively declined at all. He's just talking about Hannibal Lecter. Play the clip.
Prisons and jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums. You know, they go crazy when I say the late, great Hannibal Lecter. Okay, they say, why would he mention Hannibal Lecter? He must be cognitively in trouble. No, these are real stories. Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lamb. He's a lovely man. He wants to have you for dinner. He'd like to have you for dinner.
Then Donald Trump glitches on stage, saying lion, Kamala, radical, well, watch for yourself.
Lion Kamala is also a total radical on a word called, do you know this, right? A word called what? Abortion.
Then Donald Trump goes and makes the noises again. Play the clip.
Yeah, turn off your cameras for a second, okay? Boy, that's a lot of cameras. Man. No, they get it up and they can't quit do it. Oh. Mom, I'm sorry, Mom.
Donald Trump then lies and says that Kamala Harris supports abortions after birth. Again, just so highly offensive and disgusting things to say like this. We have to call him out so powerfully when he says just highly offensive things like this. Let's play the clip.
She wants abortions in the 8th and 9th month of pregnancy. That's fine with her. Right up until birth, and even after birth, the execution of a baby. Because that's not abortion, that's the execution of a baby.
Donald Trump then claims everybody wanted Roe v. Wade overturned, and he gave everybody the gift that they wanted. Here, play the clip.
Whereas our position is that abortion is now back to the states. You know, for 52 years, they've wanted to bring, it's Roe v. Wade. They wanted to bring it back to the states. It wasn't about how many weeks and how many, everybody wanted it. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberals, conservatives. They wanted it brought back to the states. And because we had a very brave 6 people on the Supreme Court of the United States, so they were very brave. After 52 years, they allowed it, but everybody wanted it. And they were brave to do it.
You can then see the pain in Donald Trump's eyes here as he asks everybody if they liked J.D. Vance. You like J.D. Vance, everyone? By the way, J.D. Vance is the least liked VP pick in presidential history. Play the clip.
A vote for Trump or Vance. How do you like? How do you like? J.D. Vance. How do you like him? A vote for Trump, Vance.
Donald Trump then brags that he had Hulk Hogan speak at the Republican National Convention and lies that it got good ratings, which it did not. It actually got 44% fewer viewers than who watched John McCain's Republican National Convention in 2008, but play the clip.
No, they're great. They're great people. And we had a great convention. We had a convention that broke all television ratings. How good was the Hulkster, right? Oh. And Kid Rock called. He wanted to be a part. He was fantastic. But they were all fantastic. It was the greatest. It was just a flawless convention. It was great. And the television ratings were record-setting ratings. You all read that. They were record-setting ratings, and
can we reflect how weird this is, too? I mean, talking about Hulk Hogan, the fact that at the Republican National Convention, they have a old, washed-up WWE wrestler at an event that's WWE cosplay fascism, and Hulk Hogan, rips off his shirt and goes, oh, yeah! This is the Hulk, and if you're not part of the Trumpies, we're coming after you! I mean, people's lives are on the line. Rights are on the line. I mean, Trump overturned Roe v. Wade. They're coming for IVF. They're coming for contraception. They're coming to revoke the ability for the LGBTQ community to love and marry each other. I mean, they are coming for your Social Security and your Medicare. Just look at their policies. Look at what Project 2025 is. On day one, they're going to do mass deportations. That's what they say they're going to do. By the way, you want to see what Hulk Hogan did, just to remind you? This is what happened at the Republican National Convention. Play the clip.
You lowlifes, all you scumbags, all you drug dealers, and all you crooked politicians need to answer one question, brother. What you gonna do when Donald Trump and all the Trumpomaniacs run wild on you?
All right, back to today's speech, or whatever you want to call this. I call Donald Trump's speeches traveling fascist circus rallies, masquerading as speeches. Here he is whining about the size of Kamala Harris's crowds, and Donald Trump says, but in New Jersey, we got 107,000. Play the clip.
You could multiply her crowds times 20 and 30, and she wouldn't get what we get. 107,000 people recently in New Jersey. We might win New Jersey. We're up in New Jersey. 82,000 in South Carolina. 82. And by the way, we would have had a number here that would have been through the roof. But, we are confined. As beautiful as this arena is, I just met the owner. He said it's an all-time record. Because, they have basketball, hockey, but with basketball, hockey, you can't fill up the floors, right? So we set the all-time record, and he's a very nice gentleman, great family. And we set the all-time record. And if this thing were twice as large, it would be filled up with the people outside.
More Donald Trump whining about crowd sizes. Play the clip.
And if I ever had a crowd like Kamala, assuming she had 2,000 people, which I don't think she did. But if I ever had a crowd, they'd do headline stories. Trump is over. It's all over. It's not working for him anymore. They never mentioned the crowd.
Here again, he keeps whining and saying, Lion Kamala. We have a new victim to defeat, Lion Kamala. Here, play the clip.
So now we have a new victim to defeat, Lion Kamala Harris. Lion, L-Y-I-N apostrophe. the most incompetent and far left vice president in American history. By the way, they did a poll. She was rated the worst vice president in history. I've never seen that poll before, but that's the poll.
Trump continues to complain about the news coverage of the crowd size at Kamala Harris's rallies. Play the clip.
She has a crowd of 1,000 people the other day, and the fake news, and they worked hard to get that crowd. We have crowds of 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people. And the fake news said, oh, her crowd was amazing. It was amazing. You see it? The other day, she had maybe 1,000 people. I doubt it. They worked their asses off to get those people to go, and I wonder what they gave up. They said, oh, this is such a big crowd. She's got such momentum. I don't think she's going to have a lot of momentum after this speech, because I'm telling you about her. We're telling you the facts. I'm just giving you the facts. But they said it was such a big crowd, such a beautiful crowd. They never mention our crowds. Like this crowd, look at this crowd.
Then Donald Trump says he was supposed to be nice, but he's not going to be nice anymore. Play the clip.
You know, I was supposed to be nice. They say something happened to me when I got shot. I became nice. And when you're dealing with these people, they're very dangerous people. When you're dealing with them, you can't be too nice. You really can't be. So if you don't mind, I'm not going to be nice. Is that okay? They want me to be nice.
And then Donald Trump randomly says that Kamala Harris shouldn't be able to run for president because she's committing crimes. Here, play this clip.
Kamala's deadly destruction of America's borders is completely and totally disqualifying. She shouldn't even be allowed to run for president. What she's done, she's committing crimes.
You don't get any more unhinged and weird than that. Just for those who are just watching this for the first time, this is what he does at his speeches. This is what they do. There's nothing normal about this. That shouldn't even be viewed as political. That's dangerous. It's weird. It's unhinged. He's not even talking about policies at all because he doesn't have any. It's just a weirdo MAGA cult.
It is Thursday, the 25th of July of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, our little Yorkie, actually feels well enough to be our door girl, and she will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. A little bit of jambalaya, a little bit of spice in your life. Yes, indeed. Our little Precious went to her weekly IV drip. Now, it's not chemo, but it's almost like it. We're not doing the chemo because for little dogs like this, you know, she might be sick 3 days or so out of the week. So that gives her like a day or so before she has to go under the chemo again. I just thought that was not the way to go. She has an incurable disease. I'll keep repeating this, okay? It's the motto of our life. I will love her for as long as we have her. And even then, I'll continue loving her. We just won't have her. But, so she went to her weekly day-long stay, almost day-long. And they actually called me up at 2:30. Usually the earliest that I would call, or I'm told to call, is 4. And then usually I'm walking out of there, you know, between 5:30 and 6. So, you know, you call at 4 and they say, well, get down here at 5:15 or, you know, whatever. So they called at 2:30 and said she's ready to go. I said, what? Okay, nice. I'll be there in just a moment. And it was just a moment. So went through the, you know, cut the check, of course, and went through the itemized list of what she was getting. And then they did have the IV drip. Now, this is a front of, or the front desk. This is the office part of the business. Has her IV drip labeled as chemo, and I just wanted to be certain it really wasn't chemo. Unless it was, and she was like doing okay through the week, well, we'll continue with that. So I spoke with Dr. Dickey directly, and he said, no, that's anything that they're coming in here. They hear the front desk hears cancer, so anything that's going through an IV where they're here all day, they call it chemo. But it's this medicine right here. So we were on the same page for that. But he did say that it is astounding because when she was first diagnosed with this incurable bone marrow cancer, leukemia, her white blood cell count was in the 90s. I mean, I know a little bit about blood chemistry, and that's insanely high. And when we took her back for her first series of the IV drips, and this was just the prednisone, and I believe there was another medicine. Oh, you know what? The pill that we were giving her was only for what we thought might be meningitis. Not hepatitis. Initially, they thought it could be meningitis or it could be something worse. So we were keeping our fingers crossed it was meningitis, if you can believe that. Anyway, because meningitis is bad. It turns out she has this incurable rare bone marrow cancer. And so we took her back, and her white blood cell count was in the mid-70s. Now, pretty high, but come down from that 90. Yikes. So I didn't get the white blood cell count from last week, but Dr. Dickey said she's at 45 right now for the white blood cell count. And that's just from doing palliative care, giving her the prednisone, getting this IV drip that they're doing, and then so we were prepared. He said that usually the lifespan of a dog this size that has been diagnosed with this particular ailment is like about 3 weeks. Well, it's been way past that already. And he said that it looks like she's going to live past the 3 weeks because she already has, and she may be living for quite a bit longer, and that's okay. We'll continue her on the weekly IV drip, give her the prednisone every morning, feed her copious amounts of food. I didn't get her weight, but she does feel like she's put on some pounds, which is okay. Not pounds, but she's, started off at 7, and she had lost a bit of weight. And so when we had fed her for the first series, she had lost a little bit of weight, even though we were feeding her. When I say we, it's the royal we. Gunner and me. We were feeding her. Anyway, so I'm just, when she wants to eat, I let her eat. She feels like a little tubby. And but I'll find out. I'll call today to find out what her weight was. Because if she's losing weight, I just want to make sure we're keeping, I'm feeding her enough to at least keep her at 7 pounds rather than go down to 5 or something. But she doesn't feel like 5. She's doing quite well. And in fact, the reason she was our door girl today is because when I arose here on the West Coast at just before 5 a.m. on the West Coast, I went, did my business, made sure the coffee had been brewed, and she had followed me into the kitchen. And for days previous, she was sleeping in. So I went ahead and gave her some food. She ate it and followed me back in here and sat next to me for a little bit. So I thought, well, maybe she can be a door girl today, and she is. Now that she sat, everyone, she has, retired to her little comfortable space, and that's a good thing. So, yeah, she's been a bit lively. Now, Gunner, also, we all took a little bit of a drive yesterday, and that was nice. Had the kids out in the air. Speaking of which, though we have some wildfires continuing still, it's not as smoky. And in fact, when we get into the weather, unless it's changed in the time that I looked at it when I first arose until showtime. The air quality is actually in the good range, and it had been in the not so good range before because of the wildfire smoke. And when I went out this morning to just check on the property, check on the gardens, the air actually smelled sweet instead of acrid. We don't like acrid. Okay, so did not have any run-ins with the usual suspects yesterday. I don't like to start the fights. I will not post something on the main part of the bulletin board of the town Facebook page to poke people like, MAGA does. And but I feel compelled to set the record straight. Nobody in MAGA world will ever believe anything you say, and in fact, I have to tread carefully, because if I post government reports, I run the risk of being suspended. For what? For spreading false information. Not by Meta Facebook, but by the administrator of the town Facebook page. Because it's government. Can't trust the government. Unbelievable. Official legal documents showing that, the economy is booming. Show actual bank records and their reports. Oh, no, that's all part of the deep state. Oh, you idiots. So I have to be a little careful. You could slip it in, but you got to be a little careful about how it is done. And oftentimes when it is caught by the administrator, this is a working stiff. He's not sitting at his monitor monitoring all the posts in the town Facebook page. He'll be alerted by a do-gooder in the MAGA world who will say, "You gotta look at what this commie's putting up here. He's putting up government data. It's fake news." And that's all they need. But because I feel compelled to set the record straight, I'm not going to convince these idiots, but we're always going to be able to have some sort of impact for the people who are standing by listening to what the hell's going on. People wanting to let others know that, I've got some, beeswax cosmetics we're going to sell at the Artisans Fair. And the people come looking for that who also have no idea what's going on in major political events, let alone local. They have no idea what's going on local. They hear something and they knee-jerk, which is exactly what MAGA wants. So when people are knee-jerking to the exact opposite of what the actual facts are, you got to set the record straight. And of course, in MAGA world, setting the record straight means that you are a lying, baby-eating commie who hates your country. Yeah. I hate bringing credentials. And when you do, then you're accused of you're just bringing credentials. Yeah, well, give me a break, pal. Don't tell me that I hate my country when I've invested so much in the idea of even what democracy is, and you can't even tell me. You think it's a republic. You think we are a constitutional republic. Well, pal, you know what? That's a democracy, okay? If you'd taken a civics class instead of regurgitating what the progeny of the John Birch Society has told you, you would know. There's a reason why civics was no longer required in our schools right around Watergate. That's right. After Watergate, the right wing decided the American people know too much about their government. The less they know, the better for us. And here we are, the most ignorant fool in the history of the United States, elevated to the most powerful person in the world. I wish he was. The guy's a puppet of you-know-who. And it's not just Putin, okay? Whoever he thinks he can grift, get money from, build a high-rise. He's a man of simple tastes. Doesn't take much. People knew a little bit more about their government and about the history of these United States instead of the Dan Barton gaslighting pseudo-history. That's actually a complete lie. People would say, you know what? Actually, we do have a separation of church and state. Yes, we do. When people say we are a Christian nation, they are absolute liars. But they don't want to talk about the Enlightenment. Okay? In fact, we can't even call it the Enlightenment anymore. Whatever it was, I could call it the Age of Reason, but maybe that's a little too far too. Anyway, men and women from the Age of Reason. And don't forget the women were involved in this too, even though they were marginalized and pretty much erased. What about the little ladies? Well, we have an eraser right here. Shut up, bitch. You're lucky that you're inside making my dinner. I make you go out there to the fire pit outside and do it there. Yeah, they would too. I want to go back to the good old days. Well, you know what? I don't want to go back to the days when my mom couldn't get a credit card. Had to ask permission for anything from a guy. Can I run a business? Well, do you have a guy telling me that you can? Jesus, I don't want to go back to that. Apparently, there's a bunch of, weak-ass assholes who accuse everybody else of, this is what they said about Emhoff, our soon-to-be first husband. I bet he sits to pee. Told by people who sit to pee. Jeez. Who comes up with that? People who are afflicted with whatever it is that they're accusing others of. That's MAGA. I'm upset of the world, so everybody must be upset of the world. No, I love the world, and I love the people in it. And I guess I have to love you, too. But you know what? You can love someone, and it can be tough love, too. Poof. So, now we know, of course, that America has always been ageist and ableist. I am of an age where back in the day, I had to hide my football injuries and the limps from the surgeries I had because you would be considered a lesser person and unemployable. I'm not talking about climbing ladders, hogging bricks up onto a roof. I'm talking about like sitting at a desk. Oh, you're a cripple? Anybody saw you limping for whatever reason, are you a cripple? I remember back in the day, not my mom, but I'd be out and about with other kids' moms, and their moms would point and say, "Stay away from that cripple." Not like, don't bother that poor person because of their physical ailment. No, you can't trust that cripple. So we had this ingrained in our society that anyone disabled was bad. And I wonder if it might have been because of FDR. No, it came before that. Why else would he have hid the fact that he was infirmed? Paralyzed from polio. Isn't it rich that at the same time they accuse those who have been afflicted by terrible diseases of being touched by Satan, and yet they want to bring back all of that and take away the medicines that we have developed to make sure it doesn't decimate our world again? So I don't really take it on a serious account when someone says, well, if things go right, come November, the adults will be back in charge. You mean 1 million dead plus because your idea of what an adult was in charge? Yeah, it's a cult. And the problem with cults is that it's just not enough to disagree with them and then have a hearty handshake and go out and get a cocktail together. No, you got to think about the possibility that your house might be firebombed because someone took exception to what you believe. We've already had problems with people who have lived here actually for a little bit of time, and some idiot just finds out that there's a pride flag on their property almost 100 yards from the road. And this guy came on private property and asked the occupants, the owners of the property, why are you flying that commie flag? This is a conservative town. You can't do this here. Fortunately, the occupants, the owners of the property, brought out their phones and videotaped the whole thing. Put it on TikTok. Went around the world. Our little town of Rogue River. And then the same idiots who defended a person like that say, they all said we're racist. We didn't say everybody's racist. But if your first response is to defend the racist, the homophobe, the Nazi, if I bring up the term Nazi and you start defending it, excuse me, what does that make you? At best, an apologist. Not you out there, I'm talking rhetorically to these people. These people here in town that have no idea about their America they purport to love so much and everybody else hates it. Hate the fact that we are a multicultural, pluralistic society. We are a multicultural democracy. Now, you can say that's different than what the founders intended. But I think that we can also show evidence that the founders gave us a lot of leeway because they knew we were a nation of immigrants, because what else was America except occupied territory? And anybody else coming after. So please, at least we can be true to ourselves. If we're idiots, we can admit it. The problem with MAGA is they don't want to admit it because they don't want to do anything about it. They want to continue on, well, with hate, destruction, and chaos. That's not adulting, please. Well, once again, preaching to the choir, I apologize, but sometimes it just has to be said over and over and over. What do we have in store for you here? As in the rest of our West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays as we begin here in the Bistro Cafe, well, we already pretty much talked about how Trump freaked out. They're all freaked out, and good. Whining about the illegality of the vice president. What? Yeah, idiots. Read a book. Take a civics class. On the rest of the menu, speaking of which, the Missouri MAGA Attorney General whined so much, the state Supreme Court halted the release of a man with an overturned conviction just as he was about to go free in jail for over 30 years. And he's not the only one that this guy Bailey has decided he knows better. Okay. To the judiciary's, to acknowledge the judiciary doing the right thing, they did threaten him with contempt. And that would be great to see the Missouri Attorney General thrown in jail for contempt. I want to see that. A judge ruled a Texas woman's lawsuit after being jailed on a murder charge over abortion can proceed. Now, I guess it was an abortion. Okay. But regardless, she got charged with murder. And they said you can't do that. And now she's suing, and the judge said, good, she can continue. And a third man has pleaded guilty to federal charges in connection with threats and vandalism that was targeting public radio journalists in New Hampshire. I wonder where they get the idea to do this stuff. Who gets called the enemy of the people and who keeps saying it? All right. After the break, we move to the chef's table where Eluned Morgan will be Wales' first woman leader as she takes over a troubled governing party. I need to remind the AP that in the Netroots Radio style manual, women are not referred to as female. They're women. Please. And French authorities say a Russian man is among those arrested in several plots targeting the Paris Olympics. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Sermons have been going so long that we're really cutting into the news read, so why don't we get into that right now? And this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe is by Jim Salter and Heather Hollingsworth out of the Associated Press. The Missouri Supreme Court halted the immediate release yesterday, Wednesday, of a man whose murder conviction was overturned just as the man was about to walk free. A St. Louis Circuit Court judge had ordered Christopher Dunn, now 52, to be released by 6 p.m. Central Daylight Time yesterday, Wednesday, and threatened the prison warden with contempt if Dunn remained in prison. But Republican Attorney General Andrew Bailey has been fighting Dunn's release, and it's not the only one he's been fighting. Oh boy. The situation was chaotic as the deadline set by the judge approached. Corrections Department spokesperson Karen Pojman told the Associated Press that Dunn was out of the prison facility and waiting for a ride. His wife told the AP she was on her way to pick him up. Minutes later, Pojman corrected herself and said that while Dunn was signing paperwork to be released, the Missouri Supreme Court issued a ruling that put his freedom on hold. St. Louis Circuit Judge Jason Sennheiser overturned Dunn's murder conviction on Monday, citing evidence of actual innocence in the 1990 killing. He ordered Dunn's immediate release then, but Bailey, the Attorney General, appealed, and the State Department of Corrections declined to release Dunn. St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore had filed a motion on Wednesday urging the judge to immediately order Dunn's freedom. The Attorney General cannot unilaterally decide to ignore this court's order, Gore wrote. An attorney for the Department of Corrections told a lawyer in Gore's office that Bailey advised the agency not to release Dunn until the appeals play out, according to a court filing. When told it was improper to ignore the court order, the Department of Corrections attorney responded that the Attorney General's office is legal counsel to the DOC, and the DOC will be following the advice of counsel. In other words, MAGA says, screw our courts. We'll tell you what the law is. Did I mention that every single one of these releases that Bailey has been fighting, the individuals involved have all been black? Valerie Gonzalez at the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. A Texas woman who was jailed and charged with murder after self-managing an abortion in 2022 can move forward with her lawsuit against the local sheriff and prosecutors over the case that drew national and international outrage before the charges were quickly dropped. U.S. District Judge Drew B. Tipton denied a motion by prosecutors and the sheriff to dismiss the lawsuit during a hearing in the border city of McAllen. Lizelle Gonzalez, who spent 2 nights in jail on the murder charges and is seeking $1 million in damages in the lawsuit, did not attend the hearing. Texas has one of the nation's most restrictive abortion bans and outlaws the procedure with limited exceptions. Under Texas law, women seeking an abortion are exempt from criminal charges, however. Starr County District Attorney Gosha Ramirez and other defendants have argued their positions provide them immunity from civil lawsuits. Oh, really? Rick Navarro, an attorney for the defense, argued that it was, at worst, a negligence case during the hearing. Ramirez has previously told the AP that he made a mistake in bringing charges. Tipton asked Gonzalez's attorney whether they could prove the prosecutors knew of the exception. What we intend to show is that negligence doesn't explain this oversight. It is the role and function of prosecutors to be aware of the elements of the statutes that they are charging, said David Donati, an attorney with the ACLU of Texas, who is representing Gonzalez. She was indicted in 2022 after she took the drug misoprostol while 19 weeks pregnant. She was treated at Texas Hospital, where doctors later performed a cesarean section to deliver a stillborn child after they detected no fetal heartbeat. Her lawsuit, filed in March, also named the county, which runs the small hospital where Gonzalez was treated, claiming that hospital staff violated patient privacy rights when they reported the abortion. An amended complaint alleged that the sheriff's office interviewed Gonzalez and arrested her later under direction from the prosecutors. Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. A third man has pleaded guilty to federal charges in connection with threats and vandalism targeting public radio journalists in New Hampshire. Prosecutors allege that 4 men were involved in a plot to vandalize the homes of New Hampshire Public Radio News Director Daniel Barrick, reporter Lauren Chulian, and Chulian's parents in 2022 in retaliation for a report detailing sexual misconduct allegations against a prominent businessman. Eric LaBarge, age 46, of Nasha, New Hampshire, was accused of soliciting others or conspiring with them to throw rocks and bricks through the journalist's windows and spray paint threats and obscenities on their homes. He pleaded guilty in Boston on Tuesday to 5 charges, including stalking and conspiracy to commit stalking, and faces up to 5 years in prison on each charge when he is sentenced on October 18th. You can read the rest of the article at the links provided at the show notes and links diary. Follow my social media feed at Justice Putnam for quick access. Let us now go to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. We will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. 2 significant wins for Ohio voters, with signatures certified for a citizen-led redistricting commission ballot measure and a federal court ruling striking down a portion of a state voter suppression law. Ohio Capital Journal reports that the Citizens Not Politicians redistricting ballot measure had 535,000 of its signatures from 58 counties certified July 23rd, successfully placing it on the November ballot. The measure proposes a 15-member citizen commission of Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, none of whom can be current or former politicians or lobbyists. It also forbids redistricting for partisan advantage and requires a fully transparent process. It's likely the state GOP will mount a counteroffensive since fair maps threaten its supermajority. A federal judge struck down a provision in the HB 458 voter suppression law, which allows only immediate family members to assist disabled voters, and made non-family assistance subject to felony charges. The ruling confirmed Section 8 of the Voting Rights Act, allowing disabled voters to appoint the person of their choice to assist, and protects democracy groups and others from prosecution for doing so. The judge also dismissed a motion that the disabled voter did not have a private right of action. That corrosive tactic was used successfully in an Arkansas case and expected to be brought to the U.S. Supreme Court. We have more at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1944. That was the day Local 212 UAW workers at Briggs returned to work. Briggs was directly involved in war production. 3,000 workers on 2 shifts made ball turrets for heavy bombers. Workers on both shifts walked off the job when management at the Outer Drive plant carried out a series of transfers and layoffs while expecting the same level of production. It had been the second walkout in a week. Management set a precedent of refusing to settle grievances of any kind. They routinely snubbed the union, insisting that they take any and all grievances to the War Labor Board. Local 212 President Jess Ferrazza noted that it would take anywhere from 12 to 18 months to get a grievance processed. Workers were fed up with waiting. He added, quote, "It was like a fireman with a water bucket running around trying to put fires out. Management never cooperated. If the grievance were a justifiable one, they would not settle it. They would tell you to get the workers back to work." The strike came on the heels of a contentious state CIO convention earlier in the month. There, delegates debated the merits of the no-strike pledge. Local 212 delegates were among a full third of the total delegates who made known their opposition to the pledge. Ferrazza argued that, quote, "The no-strike pledge has tied labor's hands, and as long as our hands are tied, the corporations will continue their attacks on labor." Briggs workers agreed to return to their jobs on the promise of direct settlement of grievances. They also geared up for the national CIO convention, intent on overturning the wartime no-strike pledge. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 60 degrees Fahrenheit under sunny conditions, expecting highs much cooler than what we've had. It looks like we're going to be in the mid to upper 80s rather than the mid to upper 90s. I kind of like that. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Clear skies overnight with lows in the mid 50s. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then mainly sunny tomorrow with highs, the upper 80s, low 90s. So we're still in there. Winds out of the west northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Grass pollen remains moderate here in our little town of Rogue River. The air quality index, as I mentioned earlier, or alluded to earlier, is in the good range at 16 parts per million. That's pretty low. We like that. That's why it smelled sweet. Tasted sweet too. Oh, that daytime UV index is very high and has notched up one level to level 9. So you need to take care even more. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.16 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles. And relative humidity is at 63%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 68 degrees and cloudy. Paris is 85 and sunny. Rome is 94 and sunny, and they continue to have a moderate heat advisory warning. Kabul is 78 and fair. Hong Kong is 85 degrees and partly cloudy. Tokyo is 82 degrees and partly cloudy. Auckland, New Zealand is 51 and fair. San Francisco, California is 60 degrees and partly cloudy with a small craft advisory. Chicago, Illinois is 72 and partly cloudy. And New York is 80 degrees Fahrenheit and fair. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Jill Wallace at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. Wales is set to get its first woman leader after Eluned Morgan was chosen yesterday, Wednesday, to lead the governing Welsh Labour Party as it tries to emerge from scandal and division. Morgan succeeds First Minister Vaughan Getting, who stepped down last week as party leader amid acrimony and a campaign donation scandal. Morgan, age 57, is currently the Welsh Health Minister and was the only candidate to replace Getting. She was announced as the new party leader on Wednesday yesterday and will become First Minister after a confirmation vote in Wales Parliament, the Senate. The quick change of leader avoids a leadership contest and enables Welsh Labour to project unity after the chaotic end of Gedding's tenure, which lasted just over 3 months. We've been through a difficult time. We're now looking to the future, Morgan said. I don't think it's been a pretty picture in the last few weeks. I think we've got to fess up and accept that's the situation. Gedding, the son of a Welsh father and a Zambian mother, made history in March when he was elected by Welsh lawmakers to head the Cardiff-based administration, becoming the first leader of a government in the UK. He faced criticism for accepting the equivalent of $255,000 U.S. in donations during his leadership campaign from a recycling company whose owner had been found guilty of environmental offenses and breaching health and safety regulations. Another company with the same owner was given a loan by the government-owned Development Bank of Wales in 2023 when Gedding was economy minister. In June, Gedding lost a non-binding no-confidence vote in the Senate, but said then that he would stay in his job. He resigned last week after 4 members of his government quit in protest. And Angela Charlton at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. French authorities have foiled several plots to disrupt the 2024 Olympics, including arresting a Russian man in one of them. France has been on high alert over the past few weeks as preparations to host the Olympics hit the final stretch. The Games officially kicked off with a lavish and high-security opening ceremony on the River Seine on Friday. Paris prosecutors said that they had arrested yesterday a 40-year-old Russian man at his Paris apartment on suspicion of planning to destabilize the Olympic Games. Actually, prosecutors said yesterday, Wednesday, but they had arrested him actually on Tuesday. He was charged with conducting intelligence work on behest of a foreign power, I wonder who that would be, with an aim to provoke hostilities in France, crimes which are punishable with a 30-year sentence, according to a statement from the Paris prosecutor's office. During an official search of the suspect's home in Paris, police agents found items that raised fears of his intentions to organize events likely to lead to destabilization of the Olympic Games. Destabilization? The Russian embassy in Paris said it had not received any notification from French authorities about the arrest and has asked French officials for an explanation after seeing reports about it. It did not comment further. The Games organizers are facing major security challenges, including cyber attack concerns amid high international tensions because of Russia's war in Ukraine and the Israel-Hamas conflict in Gaza. There are also elaborate disinformation campaigns orchestrated out of Russia, targeting the Olympics and France's recent elections. We have a list of threats on which we are particularly focused, including the cyber threat, said Soniol Fibliu, a National Police spokesperson told the Associated Press. Such threats can consist of fake news and disinformation or online campaigns to amplify a piece of news with bots and mass circulate it, Fibliu said. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goer. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.